Waiting 3 long months for an away win, it has taken Chelsea only 3 more days to register another one. The Blues ended the game with 10 men, but held on for a 2-1 victory over Brighton and Hove Albion at the AMEX Stadium on Wednesday. With their fourth Premier League win on the bounce, Mauricio Pochettino's men have climbed to sixth in the Premier League table, with one game left to play. This was aided by Newcastle United losing to Manchester United at Old Trafford on the same day. Chelsea now need only a point on the final day at home against Bournemouth to guarantee European football next season. There were several positives and quite a few notable individual performances to take away from the game, but a late red card to Reece James left a slight sour taste in the mouth. Without further ado, let's take a look at how the match panned out. Chelsea made one change to the team that started the 3-2 win over Nottingham Forest at the weekend, with Malo Gusto coming in at right back and Thiago Silva dropping to the bench. This meant a centre back pairing of Trevor Chalobah and Benoit Badiashile. On the other hand, there were two modifications to the Brighton side that held Newcastle United to a 1-1 draw last Saturday. Joel Veltman picked up an injury in that game, and former Chelsea man Tariq Lamptey came in at right back. Secondly, Joao Pedro was deemed fit to start at centre forward, ahead of Danny Welbeck. Chelsea built up with their customary 3-2 base, with Marc Cucurella inverting into midfield from left back, alongside fellow former Brighton man Moises Caicedo. The defensive structure used by the home side was interesting, as they didn't press with their usual 4-4-2 shape. Instead, Joao Pedro was the only man to engage the centre backs, while Simon Adingra, Julio Enciso, and Facundo Buonanotte formed a narrow block behind. The idea was to have a numerical advantage when the ball was played to the Chelsea double pivot. Further up the pitch, Billy Gilmer and Pascal Gross were essentially man marking Cole Palmer and Conor Gallagher, respectively. In the early minutes, as the Seagulls looked to press high, George Petrovic looked to get involved in the build up more than the goalkeeper usually does. Here, in the third minute, Petrovic is on the ball, and this draws Enciso out. When the pass is played to Badiashile, the Frenchman plays a brilliant ball into midfield to Caicedo, who touches it onto Gallagher to break the press. The progression from our centre backs throughout the game was excellent. A minute later, this exact same sequence led to our first shot on goal. Once again, Enciso looks to close down Petrovic, who passes to Badiashile, who picks out Caicedo. Gross now has to step across, and is taken out of the game by an exquisite 1-2 between Caicedo and Nicholas Jackson. The ball is then played out wide to Noni Madueke, and Gusto is rapid to make up the ground and offer himself on the overlap. With Adingra not tracking back quickly enough, left back Igor has one eye on the Chelsea fullback, allowing Madueke to cut inside and get away his shot, which is ultimately tipped away for a corner by Bart Verbruggen. The thing that stood out about Chelsea more than anything else was the fluidity and flexibility that we showed whilst looking to progress up the pitch. Players switched around and assumed different roles, as here we see Gusto inverting into midfield and Caicedo being the right sided centre back. The 3-2-5 build up structure remained, but the personnel switched around. As the half wore on, Brighton became more and more cautious and stopped pressing as aggressively as they did at the start. Gallagher and Palmer also dropped deep and shifted around regularly, looking to draw their men out and create gaps. At times, the Brighton players weren't exactly sure whom to mark. Here, Gallagher drops deep into midfield, and Gilmer is caught in two minds. Notice Gusto in the right half space, and as Shalaba plays an inch perfect pass to the Frenchman between the lines, Adingra isn't quick enough to cut it out. Gusto receives, turns, and plays a perfect through ball to Jackson. The striker outpaces Lewis Dunk and is one on one with Verbruggen, but his touch away from the goalkeeper is poor and takes him too wide. Gusto's versatility was well on show in this game, and the fullback's technical ability on the ball, coupled with his lightning pace, was a constant scourge of Brighton throughout. Here, the hosts have just won the ball back and are looking to break away. As Gilmer releases the ball to Adingra, Gusto is not even in the shot. By the time the ball reaches the Ivorian, the Chelsea man has covered an incredible amount of ground to make the tackle and win the ball back. He continues his run forward and gets a shot away from about 25 yards out. It takes a deflection, but it's on target and forces Verbruggen into action once again. An obvious gap was down Chelsea's left-hand side, as Buonanotte stayed narrow to track Cucurella. There were a couple of ways in which we looked to exploit this. On this occasion, Badiashile carries the ball into space and goes long towards Mikhailo Mudryk, who outpaces Lamptey and appears to have gotten the better of Adam Webster, but the referee blows for a foul. In this instance, both Gallagher and Palmer show up on the left, with Mudryk moving into a more central area. Notice the Brighton players as Palmer receives the pass and looks up. Lamptey, Gross, and Gilmore are all unsure of what to do, and no one really gets close enough to the Chelsea's most dangerous attacking player. The ball through to Mudryk is just way too easy, and had the Ukrainian not miscontrolled here, either Jackson or Cucurella could have been played through. The only goal of the half came on 34 minutes. Badiashile drives into the space on the left, but Joao Pedro does well to follow him and prevent an overload, with Gallagher also drifting wide. The ball is recycled out to the right to Palmer, who is in space with Gilmer dropping in at centre back. The reason for this was that the Brighton skipper Dunk was off the pitch after receiving treatment for an injury. Watch as the number 5 runs back onto the pitch here at the bottom of the screen. Chelsea move it sideways once again, and Cucurella darts into the box from midfield, with Buonanotte not following suit. By the time the Argentine teenager tries to recover, the fullback picks out Palmer, who directs his header magnificently into the top corner. His 22nd Premier League goal of the season, but his first one away from home in 2024. With 3 minutes to go to half time, Pochettino was forced into a change, as Mudryk came off with an injury to be replaced by Christopher Nkunku. Brighton, of course, are no mugs themselves when it comes to attacking, and created a couple of decent chances in the first half. In classic Roberto De Zerbi style, they inverted the opposition press and looked to play through with quick passing. Lamptey stayed high and wide when the home side had the ball, as his average position here shows. Here, Webster doesn't really have any passing options forward and chooses to play sideways to Dunk instead. The ball ultimately goes back to the goalkeeper, and Chelsea take the bait and commit to the high press. Mudryk isn't picking up anyone, and this allows Webster to receive and play it to Gross. The German finds Enciso, and Brighton are away. Lamptey bombs forward on the right and has time and space to cross. His ball is collected by Adingra, whose shot goes inches wide of Petrovic's post. In first half injury time, of which there were 9 minutes, Brighton played through the Chelsea press again, with Webster finding an incredible ball to Enciso, taking out 6 Blues players in the process. The Paraguayan has acres of space to drive into, before going out wide to Lamptey. The fullback's cross is once again to the back post, and Joao Pedro rises above Gusto to head towards goal. This time, the effort is on target, and Petrovic gets a fingertip to deflect the ball onto the crossbar. Dunk came off at half time, with De Zerbi bringing on Valentin Barco at left back. This move saw Igor shift to his preferred centre half role. The first 15 minutes of the second half were pretty frenetic, with both sides showing lapses in organisation and conceding chances. Best one fell to Brighton on 57 minutes. Jackson was outside the pitch when the move started, and Gilmer had time and space on the ball. He played through the lines to Joao Pedro, who dropped back to receive. Notice Gross's high position here, drawing the attention of Cucurella. When the ball is played out wide to Lamptey, the Chelsea fullback is therefore too slow to get out to him. Gross continues his run into the box, unmarked, and is found by the cross, but is unable to hit the target with the goal gaping. Chelsea needed a second goal, and it arrived 7 minutes later. Like the opener, the move starts down the left hand side, with Badiashile finding Gallagher. With Gross high up the pitch, the Chelsea midfielder is able to carry a ball a long way before finding Nkunku. Brighton are pretty organised in defence, however, and the ball is recycled to the right. Adueke sizes up Barco, while Gusto makes a darting run into the space behind, with Adingra unable to keep up. Adueke plays the pass, Gusto enters the box before cutting the ball back to the penalty spot, where Nkunku is on hand to finish. It was the Frenchman's third goal for the club, but the first one that called for a celebration. The previous two were consolations in games we lost, away at Wolves and Liverpool. On 70 minutes, De Zerbi tried something different, bringing on Welbeck and Carlos Baleba for Buonanotte and Gilmer respectively. This move saw Joao Pedro go into the number 10 role, and Ciso shift to the left, and Adingra go over to the right hand side. Chelsea did defend deep at times, but were dogged and tenacious in holding out. James, who came on for Gusto with 20 minutes to go, received his second red card of the season after a petulant kick out at Joao Pedro. The Brazilian made the absolute most of it, but there is no excuse for the Chelsea captain giving the referee such a blatant reason for sending him off. In the 7th minute of injury time, Brighton pulled one back through substitute Welbeck, setting up a nervy last 3 minutes. In the end, it was an unnecessarily tense finale for Chelsea, but they held on for the 3 points. On another day, though, things could have turned out very differently. A special mention here to Bako, who at just 19 showed maturity and ability beyond his years, being a vital cog in build up for Brighton. This allowed Gross to play much higher up the pitch and make up the numbers in attack. Midfielder's touch map in the second half shows how further forward he was compared to the first period. Bako displayed a very impressive passing repertoire, along with positional awareness. Here, he goes long to Adingra on the right, who cuts inside Cucurella and shoots over the bar. Here, he plays a beautiful chipped ball with his weaker right foot over the top of the Chelsea defense. Moments later, he puts in a delightful cross, which is just begging to be put home, and Gross is just inches away from doing just that. Signed in January from Boca Juniors for 10 million, Paco looks just like the player that Brighton will sell for a huge profit in the next couple of years. Knowing Chelsea, we might even be the ones to break the bank for him.